The Democrats questioned every election in my lifetime, including 2016. They screamed about it for 4 straight years at the top of their lungs, saying it was stolen by Russia. Hillary Clinton said that. Joe Biden said that. Jimmy Carter said it. Every news person said it at the top of their lungs. You weren't, but then you weren't allowed to question 2020's election. So that's when I knew there was something to do. So there's something there.
This is going to be an interesting one. So Trump calls for special prosecutor to investigate 2020 election. Quote, Biden was grossly incompetent and the 2020 election was a total fraud, he added. I think we can all agree that Biden is grossly incompetent. And this is from Just the News, if anybody wants to go check this out. President Donald Trump on Friday called for a special prosecutor to investigate election fraud in the 2020 presidential election. And then this is here from Donald Trump. 0 border crossings for the month for Trump versus 60,000 for sleepy, crooked Joe Biden, a man who lost the 2020 presidential election by a landslide. Biden was grossly incompetent and the 2020 election was a total fraud. The evidence is massive and overwhelming. A special prosecutor must be appointed. This cannot be allowed to happen again in the United States of America. Let the work begin. What this crooked man and his corrupt cronies have done to our country in 4 years is grossly indescribable. Make America great again. His tweets are always very difficult to read the way that he types them out. Trump's call for a special prosecutor comes in the wake of reports from the FBI that China had conspired to mass produce fake driver's licenses to carry out a massive fake ballot scheme in the 2020 election. Officials told Just the News that U.S. Customs and Border Protection had captured nearly 20,000 fake driver's licenses in July of 2020. Those revelations have called into question the assertions from former FBI Director Christopher Wray that he knew of no foreign interference plots ahead of the election. They have further reignited Trump's own claims of large-scale election fraud in 2020 that he has said affected the results. So what do you think about this, Jimmy Dore? We're going to get a special prosecutor.
I didn't. So if that was reported in July of 2020, how come nobody knows about it? How come we're just finding out about it now? And I remember. So one thing I've learned from doing my show is that when you're not allowed to question something, there is some dark fuckery happening. Okay.
Yes.
And so 9/11, you're not allowed to question it. We now know it was a lie, at least about Building 7. And you can't trust your line. So there's a lot going on in 9/11 that will never be told about, or that we're lied to about. You weren't allowed to question Seth Rich. Now we know that the FBI doesn't want to release his laptop for 65 years. So you got that and that. You weren't allowed to question this election. You weren't allowed to question the vaccine. And you weren't allowed to question the COVID narrative. So, and we found out through COVID that you were lied about everything. They lied about lockdowns. They lied about the virus, where it came from. They lied about funding the invention of it. They lied about herd immunity, natural immunity. They lied about testing for side effects. They lied about. There wasn't a thing they didn't lie about when it came to COVID, but you weren't allowed to question it. Same thing with the 2020 election. They kicked. I remember when they kicked The Hill, that show, The Rising. They kicked them off the air for YouTube did for a week. Because they played a video of Donald Trump. I believe their infraction was they played a video of Donald Trump questioning the outcome of the 2020 election. You weren't allowed to question. That's the first time in my lifetime you weren't allowed to question election. The Democrats questioned every election in my lifetime, including 2016. They screamed about it for 4 straight years at the top of their lungs, saying it was stolen by Russia. Hillary Clinton said that. Joe Biden said that. Jimmy Carter said it. Every news person said it at the top of their lungs. You weren't, but then you weren't allowed to question 2020's election. So that's when I knew there was something to do. So there's something there. So if you go by my metrics, there's something there. I don't know what is there. Maybe it is this China thing. We now know that Joe Biden was lying. Him and Hunter were taking millions of dollars from China. So anyway, I bet there's something there, and I hope they find out what it was.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think all of our elections are garbage. I mean, the Jimmy Carter Center has said numerous times that we rank dead last amongst Western democracies for election integrity. I think our elections are a joke. They always are a joke. To what extent and to who, like who's involved and how corrupt is it and what, like all of that stuff, I think it is up for debate. But I think that there's no question our elections are garbage. And I honestly think that January 6th was very much intended to set a precedent that you cannot question or protest an election. They wanted to scare people. They don't want you to get into the streets after an election ever again. And I think that that's what the whole thing was really set up for, was so that people would now be afraid moving forward to ever get in the streets on that level or to question on that level an election ever again. And I think that that's
and the secondary purpose, or maybe the primary one, but I agree with what you're saying. The one other purpose was that they tried to what they did to Bolsonaro. So in Brazil, if you don't know, the same thing. They tried to pin the quote unquote insurrection on Donald Trump, which would then make him ineligible to be able to be on a ballot. But they couldn't. They couldn't do that because he didn't do that. He didn't incite. But they did it to Bolsonaro in Brazil. It was the exact same playbook, and they charged him with trying to overthrow the government and inciting that. And so now he can't run for president. They tried to do that to Donald Trump, but it didn't work because Donald Trump didn't play along. And so those are the two purposes of January 6th. Yeah. So that's the, I just go back to my interview I did with Cornel West, who was a hero of mine. And when he came on and he kept calling Donald Trump a fascist, but he wouldn't call Joe Biden a fascist. And he kept pretending that if Donald Trump got elected, that fascism would then come to America, as if he wasn't living under it. Again, he was completely out of touch. There's nothing more fascist than the government mandating you take an experimental medical treatment. That is Nazi stuff right there. And they did it. For
sure.
And apparently he didn't care about that. And January 6th and all the lawfare that they did to try to criminalize the exact thing they were accusing Donald Trump of doing, he was going to sick the Justice Department on his political enemies. They were currently doing that. And it was obvious to everybody. And if you can't stand up for Donald Trump when he's being prosecuted, politically motivated prosecutions against him, which is exactly what those were, then nobody's going to stand up for Cornel West. Nobody's going to stand up for Jill Stein. You have to stand up for the people you don't like. It's on principle, just like free speech. You have to stand up for the speech you don't like on principle, or else there's going to be nobody around to stand up for you. And that was a big letdown to me when I had Cornel West on the show, because he was not only out of touch 100% with COVID, 40% of Black-owned businesses shut down during COVID. Didn't care. I never heard a peep about him screaming about that, or about the workers, or about their rights, or about any of that stuff. And he didn't scream about the Justice Department going after a political enemy of the administration, and which is exactly what they would do to him if he ever became a threat. And so the fact that a dumb jagoff like me has to explain that to a Harvard professor was demoralizing almost to me. It really crushed me. But anyway, here we are. And so let's see what happened. I cannot wait to see what happened with the 2020 election. I know there was something happening because you weren't allowed to question it.
Yeah, I'm not sure we'll ever find out, though, to be honest with you. And this, the timing of this is also a little weird to me, because we know that Trump is under a lot of fire, in particular from his base over the whole Israel-Iran thing. So is he doing this now just to kind of flick some crumbs, like give them a little bit of catnip over here so that they lay off of him over here? That's also possible. I'm not sure we'll ever... I mean, as you said earlier, we're never going to know about 9/11. We're never going to know the real truth about COVID. We're never going to know the real truth about really anything. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that they do all the time. It's really just, they want us chasing our tails, and they want us kind of distracted away from anything that's important. So I'm not sure we'll ever get any answers, but I mean, listen, I would love to actually get a special prosecutor, a real one, like a non-biased, objective perspective. But I don't think we're ever going to get that, unfortunately. But we'll see. I mean, it's just been announced, so there's really no way for us to judge how that's going to go until we get through it. So I am a little suspicious, though.
Russell Dobler used to make the point that if Donald Trump is elected president, he has to rethink everything he thinks about the CIA. And I point taken, because now after he's been elected, I don't think we actually do have to rethink it, because it seems like he was he's not working against the deep state. He's working with them. When it comes to Jeffrey Epstein and the lies that the FBI is now telling, the same lies that Joe Biden told. There's nothing to see here. He killed himself, all that stuff, right? After years and years of the same people screaming. And then so now that looks like Donald Trump is trying to figure, he's bombing Yemen after he criticized bombing Yemen 5 minutes before he became president, right? So and then it looks like he's going to back up Israel with this 2 weeks thing is it's very suspect. It looks like is he giving them enough time to do a false flag in America? Is that what this is all about? So it looks like he got on board with the deep state. It doesn't look like Donald Trump is actually fighting the deep state. And so, yeah, maybe you're right. I think when you mention it, this is probably just a distraction.
Yeah, I think that's very likely. And unfortunately, really, if we're just being honest with ourselves, nobody who's actually going to fight the deep state will ever be allowed to become president. Not once, certainly not twice.
Well, the fact that he closed that investigation into the Butler assassination attempt is super suspect. So again, there's like, so he's not working against the deep state. He's working with them. So then it makes me feel like, well, what is the real story about Butler? There's more to it than meets the eye. If Donald Trump doesn't want to know about, if you really want me to think that this was a Lee Harvey Oswald situation, that's just not the case. So so it's all very suspect, and Donald Trump seems to be working with the deep state and not against them. That's all. It's
unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. I know a lot of his supporters really had hope that he was going to be that guy. He's not that guy, though. Yeah, I know you did.
I had hope. I didn't have, as I told Chris Hedges, I don't have faith, but I have hope.
Yeah, it's hard. I think it's hard to not. You want people. I'm a cynic. I get called out for it a lot. People say I'm a black pillar, and I think that that's probably a little bit true. Obviously, I wouldn't do what I do. I wouldn't have done what I did for all the years I did for Assange if I didn't have a tiny bit of hope in my otherwise cold, dead heart. But it's difficult to look around and see the way that things have been playing out and not be very cynical. So I had zero hope for Donald Trump, and I know that a lot of people did, and I get it. Like, I understand. We're in it, looking around and watching the way that things are playing out, watching the chaos that's unfolding around us, watching a genocide being live streamed to us every single day for nearly 2 years now. It's a lot. And I think everybody really wishes that there was somebody who was coming to save us, but there just isn't. We're going to have to save ourselves, I think. So I think that that's really what we need to wrap our heads around. And we really need to stop letting them divide us, because we need each other. We all have a common enemy.
We certainly do. And
we really do.
And it's the people who actually run the country.
Yeah. And the system that's designed to kill us all. I mean, we need to come to, we can have our differences of opinion. We can argue, we can have those debates. That's all fine, well and good. There's issues that we need to have very nuanced conversations about, but we can't even begin to deal with that stuff until we deal with the system that's designed to kill us all. So that's, I really wish that people would stop letting them divide us in that way, so that we can come together and figure out how the hell we fix this thing. If it's even possible, we may be well beyond the point of no return. So,
and I have lots of MAGA come out to my shows. I have lots of those same type of people in the UK and Ireland that came out, and they're not on board certainly not on board for Israel or Zionism or for crackdowns on free speech. They're not for any of that stuff. So I feel like it's a sliver of his base. It's not his base. It's a sliver of it.
I agree. I 100% agree. And especially we've seen recently a lot of right-wing influencer types, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but he's really starting to get some pushback. I'm not sure to what end. I'm not sure that he really cares at all about what his base wants or thinks. But we are at least seeing them push back, which, I mean, if we're just being objectively fair here, that's more than you can say for most liberals. Most liberals
never
do not care. Yeah.
Never push
back. The tan suit, Jimmy. It's just a tan suit. That's the only.
That's the only thing. Yeah, they won't even. I live in Los Angeles. They won't even criticize the government when they let the city burn down and there's no water in the fire hydrants, and they drain a reservoir right above Pacific Palisades before the fire season. They have no criticism whatsoever. None of them, even from comedians. They're like, what? Oh, there's nothing they could do. So yeah, there's there's way more pushback from MAGA than I've ever seen at least in the last 15 years from Democrats.
For sure. There's no question about that, which is, I mean, just depressing on every level, but it is what it is. And I mean, just to give that contingent of the MAGA crowd credit. We are starting to see them, many of them. It's not just a handful here and there. I'm seeing it pretty extensively across social media. So, I mean, that's great. I'm glad that they aren't, because they get a lot of crap for being a cult. And I do think that there is that contingent that's very cultish. But there is some pushback, which, as we said, is more than we can say for some.
I mean, look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, look at Matt Gaetz, look at Tucker Carlson, look at Steve Bannon. They're all pushing back.
Candace Owens, Dave Smith.
That's right.
There's a bunch of them, big name people who. I mean, Dave Smith went on Breaking Points and actually apologized for ever supporting Donald Trump and for encouraging other people to vote for him. So I don't think I've ever seen a liberal do that.
No,
ever.
In fact, I mean, we were left with Pramila Jayapal giving an AOC. Didn't they give Joe Biden an A+?
Yes.
Remember that after he crushed a union strike and after they wouldn't use their leverage to get a vote on Medicare, they wouldn't use leverage for anything. So yeah, they're worse than worthless. Yes, that's right. Yeah. So tip of the hat to the people in MAGA who are sticking to their principles.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Pramila Jayapal actually even came out and said that fighting for Medicare for all or fighting for force the vote would kill the movement.
Yeah.
On her own bill.
Fighting for something you want. Yeah. If you fight for the bill that I wrote, that will hurt it. They're just charlatans.
Yes, it's fascinating.
Come see us on tour. We're going to be in Toronto again, Red Bank, New Jersey, Northampton, Massachusetts, Concord, New Hampshire, Rutherford, New Jersey, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.